Good evening, everyone. On this Sunday, welcome to the BirdCon India series of Raptor Ready webinar. My name is Praveen J. And hope you would remember the last ID webinar on Harriers by GK. This is the second in the series. And the intention of these webinars are to make sure that we have some structured mechanism by which all of us can actually become better at IDing a certain group of birds. And this time we have Accipiters, which is going to be presented by Mr. Nirav Bhatt, who is a raptor. He's from Gujarat. He's probably the Raptor ID man of India. He's very active in Facebook. He has got a WhatsApp group on Raptors of India. He is an eBird editor looking at all raptors across India, widely traveled, looking at all species and subspecies of raptors, extremely passionate. And it would be great to hear from him on the identification of accipiters in various age groups. Please remember there is a Q&A button there. If you have questions, you can actually put your question in the Q&A. We will take the question in the end, and there is a quiz in between which Ankita will post. You have to click to answer the question. And remember, this webinar is recorded. Even if you lose things in between, you can always go back and look at the YouTube channel to hear the webinar again. With this, I request Nirav to take the floor and walk us through Accipiters. Over to you, Nirav.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I am happy that I've been given this opportunity to share this identification workshop, a basic webinar. Am I audible clearly, Praveen?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Okay. So basically, initially, as some of you would know, it started, the topic given to me was accipiters, bootios, and honey buzzards, everything. But instead of doing everything at once, I requested Praveen and Ankita and Ashwin to just start with accipiters because it is a small group, but still there are some difficulties, some nuances, something coming up. So we'll be focusing only on accipiters this time. Maybe the bootios and the buzzards will take another session. So this will be only accipiters. And let us start with the basic structure identification. I'll minimize this. Okay, a very first small acknowledgement to everyone. The photographs used in this presentation are either mine or taken from the Macaulay library or similar other platforms. I couldn't individually credit the photographers for every pictures used, but sincere thanks to everyone whose images are used for this presentation and otherwise also. And once again, this is, I would like to motivate everyone to upload pictures, as many pictures as possible on eBird, so that someone like me who is doing some work or some interesting observations are there, they can be available to everyone. Okay, we never know what could be important to whom. So that's why please share whatever you have. So let us start with this presentation of identification. So accipiters by the wings and wings pattern. I think GK has done a nice in a presentation earlier in which he has given the outline of the birds and how the shadows or the structures of the wings and the bird is to be seen. So now in this, we are just giving some comparisons here. So with eagles have rectangular wings with clear outer fingers which are visible. While bootios, they have a rounder wing shape, but still little broader and overall a broad looking bird with a shorter tail. Accipiters on the other hand, they show some fingers outside, but it depends on what type of activities it is doing, but it has a significantly longer tail. That's how we identify accipiters overall. And again, it is very closely similar looking to the falcons, because sometimes when they are moving ahead or stooping ahead, even accipiters can sometimes look like falcons, but falcons have more pointed wings and they have sharp shoulders. Okay, Even the tail is slightly rounder in falcons. So with this broad range of identification of the silhouettes, let us have a small quiz here. Okay, so these are small thumbnails. All we need to do is we need to tell how many of these, which of these are accipiters and which are not accipiters. We are just trying to understand what do you think of these are accipiters. You can write down the numbers out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which of these, like 1, 2, 3, or maybe 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 7, 1, 1, 4, 6, or Ankita, can you put a poll?
The answers are coming in the chat box, Nirav.
Okay.
A lot of people are guessing 135, 136.
Okay.
A lot of them are 1 and 5, 3, 135.
I think one everybody has.
Okay. Right.
Many threes.
Okay.
Some 5 and 6. Adesh has probably given it. He has already identified all of them. 6 of them. I will not read it out now.
Okay. Great. So we'll go in the identification later. Individual identification. We'll just stick to the basic. Which of these are accipiters? Is the pullover? Okay. So as most of you have correctly identified, 1, 3, and 5. These are accipiters. The remaining are not accipiters. So now let us take that ahead. So with this poll, I think I have a tough job to do because a lot of you are already aware about the accipiters. So let us see how we can go gradually, slowly, and we'll try to identify. So we'll start with the first 4 most commonly seen accipiters in a region, which are Shikra, Sparrowhawk, Besra, and Crested Goshawk. So we'll focus first only on these 4 species, and we'll see what to be seen for identification per species. Okay. So for adult male, adult female, and juvenile Shikra, the photographs are given. The important part to be seen are fine barrings, faint galar stripe, and plain upper deck feather. Okay. Now you can see the Shikra adult male, only the top of the feather, that is called the deck feather, the top layer of the tail, it is plain. But sometimes even in adult birds, the other tail feathers which are under the deck feather, they are often marked. They have bands on it. Similarly, even adult female Shikra also has similar markings besides the adult the deck feathers, and juvenile Shikras also have barrings, but the proportion of barring is different. We'll see in the next slide. What is important to see here is adult male Shikra has red eyes, adult female Shikra has yellow eyes, and juveniles have pale eyes, sometimes even whitish to yellowish to bluish.
So, Nirav, there is a request whether you can use the cursor when you
Okay.
point to features, if it's possible.
Perfect. I'll do that. Okay. So I'm talking about the eye colors here. Gala stripe is the stripe which is on the throat. So here we can see very little bit of gala stripe here. So the gala stripe is there and it is variable in the juveniles as well as adults. Okay. The juveniles, mostly they have a teardrop kind of markings or streakings. This is called vertical streakings. Streaking or teardrop type of marking. And importantly, they have darker eye ring. This eye ring is dark. That is how we identify Shikra. Now we'll see sparrowhawks. Sparrowhawk, the important parts are dark eye mask. This is the most important part here. Adult male, it is a two-colored, two-toned head. Okay, but every time, like a shrike, the eye mask here, it is always dark. This is a female, but the eye mark is always dark. Even in juveniles, this eye mask is always dark. So this is one most important pointer for sparrowhawk. Then absence of gala stripe. Usually here in Shikra, there is faint gala stripe. In Besra and Crested Goshawk, there is a prominent gala stripe. Here, usually there is no gala stripe here. Instead, there are fine streakings on the throat. Fine streaking on the throat. Okay. There are some juveniles, there are some exceptions. Very rarely, some juveniles may show a fainter gala stripe. Okay. Second, what we have to see is prominent eyebrow in the females. Females, they have prominent eyebrow. Even in the juveniles, they have prominent eyebrows. Sometimes in male, it is not so prominent. Okay. Then the beak is very small compared to Shikra. Okay. And it has the longest wings of all the four that we are discussing right now. So the wing is very long. So that's why the primary projection is longer when the wings are closed. Okay. For the markings, the male have more chestnut colored barrings. Female have variable, but usually brownish barrings, often grayish. The juveniles have barring. Sometimes it has V-shaped marking here. Like here, there are markings for the juvenile. But important part, once again, this is the eye mask, eyebrow, yellow eye ring, longer, slim feet, and smaller beak. These are the main ID pointers. Now we'll see with Besra. Besra is a forest bird. While Shikra and Sparrowhawk are seen in open areas, Besras are usually confined to some or the other kind of forest habitat. Similar is with the Crested Goshawk. Now, identification here is this adult male, adult female, and the juvenile. So, main pointers are slimmer body. The body is much slimmer in comparison because this is most likely to be confused with Crested Goshawk. So, in comparison of that, it is a slimmer body. Then it has very small beak. Very small beak. Okay, similar to Sparrowhawk. The females are larger and little more bulky built than the males. So the beak is slightly bigger, but still this is much smaller in comparison to all the other accipiters. Then it has a yellow eye ring. This is the most important pointer here. Okay, one, yellow eye ring. Second, the wings are rounded. So that's why it does not have a very long wings in flight. And this is called the primary projection where it ends. The wings are shorter. Then we have to look at the tarsi. The tarsi is not visible in these pictures, but overall they have very thin, long tarsi. Okay, tarsi is the feet part here. And the last point is the tail bands. Now in adult Shikra that we saw, the upper deck feathers, they are usually plain, but in Besras, there is prominent dark bands which are seen on the tail. This is one very important ID pointer. Similarly, in the juveniles, broad dark bands which are almost equal length with the pale. This is the most important ID pointer for Besra. Okay. The adults are more chestnut in color than Shikra. The Shikra will have fine barrings. Adult Besra will have blotches of chestnut color. Now we'll see the last one, that is Crested Goshawk. Adult male, adult female, and juvenile. It has robust body, much more robust. It has a large beak, which is very, very large in comparison to all the other accipiters that we have seen. Much larger Then the Sparrowhawk and the Besra, even it is much larger than the Shikra also. Okay. For this also, the wings are rounded. It does not have a very long projection. There is a prominent gullar stripe. We see here the gullar stripe is very prominent. Here also it is very prominent. Here it is not visible in this angle, but it has a prominent gullar stripe. Streaked chest. And here the chest part, half part is streaked and bottom part is barred. Especially here, the thighs are also barred or spotted in juveniles. So this barring in thighs is unique to the crested goshawks. The thickness of the feet is also very much in comparison to Shikra, Sparrowhawk and the Besra. It is the most thick tarsi of all the four. Okay. Now we'll see once again the comparison part. How to identify and how to separate these four in the field. So we'll compare all of them side by side once again. What are important part? You see the gullar stripe here. Okay, we'll start with here. A prominent gullar stripe here. A prominent gullar stripe here. Very faint gullar stripe in the Shikra. And no gullar stripe. Only fine streakings on the gullar region in the Sparrowhawk. So that is one ID pointer. Next is the face markings. As I told you, this eye mask is very unique for Sparrowhawks along with the eyebrow. In Shikra, it has a uniform looking head. In Besra, it has a darker head with yellow eye ring and smaller beak. Crested Goshawk, it has a very heavy beak, heavier looking head, and it looks very stout. The feet, the tarsi are very powerful, very strong, and the thickest most of the all. So it has shorter legs, longer legs for Besra, medium legs for Shikra, and very long legs for Sparrowhawk. Okay. Once again, we'll see some more examples. Okay. Adult males. What we see, it is the same thing. Once again, see the gullar stripe, faint gullar stripe here, prominent gullar stripe, prominent gullar stripe. So crested goshawk prominent, Besra prominent, Shikra faint, Sparrowhawk no gullar stripe. Face markings, eye mask. This is very important. Shikra plain looking head. Besra plain but much darker head. And crested goshawk is variable. It can have a uniform. It has a uniform but darker head overall. Then we see the barrings. It has chestnut barrings, the Sparrowhawk. Shikra, very fine chestnut barring. Besra, blotches of chestnuts with some barrings. And crested goshawk, vertical streakings with blotches and then barring on the underparts, the belly. Now we see the feet. Long feet, medium, very long, thin, and here it looks fine, but they are still small and robust. Okay. Posture also, goshawk is supposed to be the most robust of the four. On the back profile, we are comparing all the four side by side so that we can learn more. Understand here the plain deck feather of Shikra. Here they have barrings 1, 2, 3 for the Sparrowhawk. The barrings are visible. Sometimes in field it is difficult to observe this, but depending on the light condition, inevitably the barrings are there, and as they age, the barring gets faded. In Besra, there are broad bands as seen very clearly, and crested goshawk also has broad bands on the tail. But the difference is here there is a squarish tail. On the crested goshawk, it's a rounder tail. Now, the important part once again is the beak. See the beak size here? Shikra has a robust beak, Sparrowhawk small beak, Besra small beak, crested goshawk very, very thick, robust. So these are the most important pointers. Once again, we'll see broad tail bands of Besra and crested goshawk, square tail of Besra and Sparrowhawk. See the tail ending. It is squarish, straight tail, end of Besra and Sparrowhawk, while it is rounder in Shikra as well as Crested Goshawk. Now juveniles, adults are often easier, but juveniles are a little more difficult to identify. So let's see one by one. The important pointers, as told earlier, for Sparrowhawk, it is the dark eye mask and prominent eyebrow. For Shikra, it's a uniform head. Eyebrows are variable. Sometimes some birds can have prominent eyebrows also, but it has a uniform head. Besra, prominent gala stripe here. Even Crested Goshawk, prominent gala stripe. Okay. Markings. Sparrowhawk, as discussed earlier, they have barrings, sometimes V-shaped markings. Shikra has vertical streakings or drop type of marking. Besra has vertical streakings with spotted, and Crested Goshawk is having spotted markings, which is less in comparison to the others. Now see the feet. These are very heavy feet of the Crested Goshawk. Fine tarsi of Besra. Shikra, it's not visible, but it's in between these two. And Sparrowhawk, once again, very fine tarsi. Okay. Is this getting clear? We'll have few more slides for comparison. So we are doing more and more comparisons so that we are clear on what are important pointers. I'm repeating the same things once again. Compare the head and the beak shape. See the head, it is more robust head. So that's a Crested Goshawk with a very robust, large beak. Shikra, uniform head with a large beak. Sparrowhawk, larger head, dark eye mask, eyebrow, and a small beak. Similarly, Besra, it is yellow eye ring, smaller beak, and a smaller head. The tail, a square tail, that is a straight line in the tail. See the barring here. The tail bands, broad tail bands visible in Besra. Sparrowhawk has also broad tail bands, but not as much as Besra. Besra usually shows 3 tail bands. Sparrowhawk shows 4. Shikra, very finer, and 5 tail bands to the top. Okay. The difference of the tail barrings of plain and dark bands is important here. And Crested Goshawk also similar to Besra, broad tail bands. Once again, see the primary projections here. The wings of Sparrowhawk is the longest. So here, this is called the primary projection. Here it ends. So it is the longest of all. Besra is the shortest of all. Similarly, Crested Goshawk, very short, and Shikra has a medium primary projection. I hope I'm getting this conveyed correctly. We'll see some more comparisons once again. This is adult female Besra, and there are variations in the plumages. That's why we are seeing these images now. So thick barring on the underpart. Vertical, there are chestnut blotches with vertical streakings. Yellow eye ring, smaller beak, uniform head, dark head, and a prominent gala stripe. These are the most important ID pointers. Okay. Long, thin tarsi. Some more comparisons once again. We'll see Besra, juveniles. It also comes in some variable plumages, but what we need to see is yellow eye ring, small beak, prominent gala stripe, short primary projection, and broad tail bands is what we see here. Also thin tarsi here. Once again here, prominent gala stripe, small beak, yellow eye ring, very thin tarsi, and long central toe. Middle toe, it's very long, and broad tail bands, square tail. Okay, I've used the same words again and again so that you are focusing on what is the correct way to say it. We'll see some Shikras, juveniles, because the juvenile Shikras are very variable in the plumage, and that's why we are getting more ID request even in Shikras. We'll see the difference here. The tail bands are here. They are thin tail bands, sometimes broken. Okay, in juvenile. As they grow adult, this will disappear and become plain tail feathers. Darker eye ring. The eye ring is dark here, blackish. Here we see dark, blackish or darker eye rings in all the three. The beak is larger than Besra and Sparrowhawk. The beak is larger than Besra and Sparrowhawk, but not as much as Crested Goshawk. All right. We'll see some more comparison of Eurasian Sparrowhawk. It has a rounder head, small beak, long primary projections, yellow eye ring, absence of gala stripe, fine streaking on the throat, and compact size makes it male. Here we'll see the adult bird here. Rounded head, small beak, dark eye mask, yellow eye ring, absence of gala stripe, chestnut flanks, more chestnut on the flanks, and the barrings, chestnut barrings, and long primary projections. Okay, is this getting conveyed clearly? We'll see Crested Goshawk also juveniles, because these are the confusing ones because they are uniform brown color birds, so difficult to identify. But see the size of the bill here, almost eagle-like. Okay, so very strong beak, strong head, robust body, thick tarsi, thick digits of the toe, prominent tail bands, again very thick tarsi, markings on the thigh, thick tarsi, prominent gala stripe, and robust head and robust build. The central toe here, it is much slimmer in Besra and it's very longer in Besra. So we often try to identify the birds by looking at the size of the birds. Okay, people say that Sparrowhawk is bigger than Shikra. That's how we identify it. That's not the correct way, because see the size difference here. Like all raptors, in Accipiters, there is a reverse sexual dimorphism where the males are smaller and the females are larger. The size difference can be very big often. We can see here there is an adult Besra pair. Male on the right side, female on the left side. There is a very big size difference. Now the next is very important here. See the size difference here. Okay. So once again, there is a very large reverse sexual dimorphism in all accipiters. People often confuse this bird for northern or Eurasian goshawk instead of sparrowhawk because it is very big. That is one of the key differences of sparrowhawk and Eurasian goshawk. But right now we are seeing both these birds are Eurasian goshawks. This is an adult female and that's a juvenile male. What do we see here? Once again, thick, long tarsi, slim tarsi here, long feet, dark eye mask, absence of gala stripe, prominent streaking, fine barrings here. Okay. So this is how we identify sparrowhawk and see the size difference here. So we should not identify by size alone. I hope this is clear. So let's have a look at some quiz here. We'll see only the perch birds because we have seen all the perch birds here. Once again, I'll just get through everything. So this will be your hint. I'm trying to leak the paper. Okay. So we'll see some more raptors in perched position and try to identify this now. Okay. So Ankita, you can start the poll. Is it a Shikra, Sparrowhawk, Besra, or Crested Goshawk?
Poll will come on the screen and you have to click on it.
Sorry,
Let us try to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I launched the wrong one. Sorry. Yeah, this is the correct one. Yeah. Please press the submit button after you choose your option.
I request everyone to be little fast in your polls so that we can proceed ahead very quickly.
People are doing it very fast.
Correct.
120 out of 188 and several comments on the chat also.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think you can go ahead, Nirav.
Okay. So what is the poll result? How many percent?
So Eurasian Sparrowhawk 84%, the rest of the months 862%. So
Perfect. So most of you are correct here. So this is an adult male Eurasian sparrowhawk. Why? Once again, I'll repeat the pointers. Dark eye mask. This is very important. Dark eye mask, long primary projections, square tail, and absence of gala stripe. Only these things and a small beak. This will eliminate the others. Okay, perfect. Someone is raising the hands. So is there anything very quick we can discuss right now, or rather we should take all the questions on the end?
let's take the questions to the end because there are about 5 Q&As which has already come. So let's keep
Right.
it to the end.
So let us have these 5 question quizzes here, and then let's go ahead. So this one, next poll.
By around 120 answers, I will let you know. Mirav, I think we are past 120. I think you can tell the answer, move to the next poll. So
Perfect.
overwhelming 93% Shikra.
Perfect. So everyone is getting it correct. This is an adult Shikra, uniform pale head, fine barrings, and larger looking beak, darker eye rings. This makes it a Shikra. Okay, there are some white spots here which are seen in Shikras, Sparrowhawk, and all the birds. So that is not to be seen. So most of you are correct here. Let's see the next one.
Is more balanced.
More balance. Yes, that's what is good. Okay.
Yes, nearly
So what are the
120.
results?
Nearly 120, 71% Besra, 36% Crested Goshawk, 11% Shikra.
Okay, so we'll go with elimination one by one. Those who have told Shikra, we'll eliminate Shikra on basis of only one primary thing, which is broad tail bands. Okay. So broad tail bands will certainly eliminate Shikra. Yes. Now there is a doubt. All those who told Crested Goshawk, they are also going on the correct way, but the beak here looks little larger, but it is not larger. It is a very finer beak in comparison to Crested Goshawk. This is a Besra, and the beak of Crested Goshawk is much more eagle-like. It should be this big beak for a Crested Goshawk. So this is a slimmer looking beak and with broad tail bands with square tail. Okay. This is a adult Besra. Next.
Q&A. It would be great if people can enter the Q&A, and we will take it in the end. I see a raised hand, so let's do everything in the end.
Correct.
Nearly
No, if
130
there's any suggestion, we'll take it
Yeah,
after
yeah,
this quiz. Let us see.
yeah. Nearly 120 people have answered. 88% Crested Goshawk, small percent rather.
Okay. So for those who have small percent of others, most of you have got it correct. How we identify it is broader tail bands, okay, a much larger beak in comparison to others, and a prominent gullet stripe. So prominent gullet stripe will eliminate Sparrowhawk. A larger beak and still very prominent gullet stripe should, along with very broad tail bands, should eliminate Shikra also. Now with Besra, this beak is very large in comparison to Besra. So only based on the large beak, we can eliminate Besra also. So this is a crested goshawk. One more.
Yeah, nearly 120 people have participated, and 72% is Shikra, 13% is Eurasian
13%.
Goshawk,
Yeah,
12% is Besra. So yeah.
Correct. So those who have voted for Eurasian Sparrowhawk and Besra, let us try to clarify once again. Sparrowhawk will show a dark eye mask, which is absent here. So that's how we are eliminating Sparrowhawk. And for Besra, Besra should show a prominent gullet stripe. This does look little bit, but it is a Shikra. It is a juvenile Shikra, and it's a worn out plumage of a Shikra because the beak is much larger, and see the dark color eye ring. Besra will show a yellow eye ring here. Okay, so we have seen the perched birds here, and most of you have got it correct. So there were few hands raised. Is there any suggestion in the way we want to change this? If any suggestions, can please let me know. Praveen, can we take the suggestions if at all, so that everyone is getting it correctly? Then
Yeah,
we proceed ahead.
sure, Nirav. No suggestions came up in the chat at least. Ankita, people will be able to, I think, yeah, doesn't seem to be a suggestion. There are a few questions which we can probably look at.
So questions we'll answer at the end, but if there are any suggestions, we will take it right away.
Doesn't seem to be any. Can
Doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Sure. So we'll take one more.
Yeah, they're all waiting for the flight identification. Many people.
Perfect. So yeah, last we'll take one more final quick. So the same bird was there in the earlier part of presentation also. Very quickly try to identify what it is, and I think that's how we'll close this.
Yeah, Ankita, you have to change the quiz.
Yes. Is it visible now?
Yes.
That is an overwhelming one. Overwhelming. Perfect. So I think whatever we have done till now has been on the correct track. So this is like 96% have said it is correct. It is a Eurasian Sparrowhawk juvenile. Okay, once again, for those 3 and 2% who have said something else, once again, we'll focus that dark eye mask, yellow eye ring, long tail, long primary projections, absence of gullet stripe, very finely streaked throat. These are all pointers for a Eurasian Sparrowhawk. Okay, now let's start with the difficult thing. Now let's see in flight. Okay, here we'll go very slowly and steadily on the flight part. All 4 are compared hereby. So first have a good look at the photographs. Then we'll see what exactly are we seeing here. Everyone okay? Let's analyze this. So we have done it like this. See these two in flight while comparison, these two in flight while comparison, these two in flight while comparison. Because in flight, these two birds, that is Eurasian Sparrowhawk and a Crested Goshawk, these two primarily shows 6 outer primaries, which we call fingers. So Sparrowhawk and Crested Goshawk will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 fingers. Once again here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 prominent fingers are seen in Crested Goshawk as well as Eurasian Sparrowhawk. Now in these two, how to separate these two is the wing proportion and the wing shape. It has a rounder wing. Okay, it bulges, the secondary bulges and pinches inside the body. So this has the most rounded wings of the 4 is the Crested Goshawk. 6 fingers, bulging secondaries, pinching inside. This is one pointer. Second, we should always remember what we saw earlier. Very large beak, very prominent gala stripe, uniform gray head, vertical streakings up to the throat and barrings below, prominent barrings. Sometimes this rufous, this fluffy vent is seen in Crested Goshawk, but this is not an identification pointer. This is seen in all the birds. This may be seen. In Crested Goshawk, it is seen more commonly. Okay, but this is how we identify Crested Goshawk in flight. Now we'll focus on Sparrowhawk. Very long wings. It has the longest wing of the 4 and 6 fingers. The tail in flight, here it is, because it is in flight, it has spread tail, it looks roundish, but when it is closed while flying, it has a straight tail edge. It's a square-tailed bird. Absence of gala stripe, prominent fine barrings throughout. It makes it a Sparrowhawk. Dark eye mask. Okay. Now we'll see 5 fingers here. 5 fingers, 5 outer primaries. We have 2 options, Shikra and Besra. What do we see here is Shikra shows dark primary in flight. This outer primaries. This is dark in the adult birds. This is dark in the adult birds. Shikra has a gala stripe which is faint, okay, in comparison to Besra. Besra has a very prominent gala stripe. Again, Besra has a square tail, while Shikra has more of a rounded tail. In flight, even Besra has little smaller wings in comparison to Shikra. So it has more rounder wing appearance. Besra has a rounder wing appearance, but we see very small beak, prominent gala stripe, square tail, and rounded wings with more markings on the wings throughout. Okay, Shikra does not have that much of prominent markings, at least in the adult. In juveniles, there are markings, but it is not as broad as the Besra. Now comparing these two in flight, it is also very common to misidentify both of them for each other. What we see here is the difference here is 5 fingers and 6 fingers. In flight, Sparrowhawk shows squarish tail, okay, and longer wings in comparison to Shikra. While comparing these two, it has a square tail and this is a rounded tail. The beak itself, you see the comparison of beak, it is a much larger, robust head in comparison to very slim head and slim beak of a Besra. Is this clear? Let us see one more. Now we are seeing comparison of the most similar looking 2 birds, at least in the plumage part. What we have to see here is left side is a Crested Goshawk, right side is a Besra. Here we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 outer primaries, that is 6 fingers. Here there are only 5. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is 1. Second, much larger beak and head in comparison to very smaller beak. Both of them have prominent gala stripe. So that is not an important ID pointer. But here it's a square tail. Here it's a rounded tail. Once again, it has bulging secondary feathers pinching inside the body. Both of them have that. Okay, but this is a more slimmer build and versus the more robust build of a crested goshawk. Is this getting clear? Also, the tarsi here, it has a very prominent thick tarsi, while here it is a slimmer tarsi. Sometimes all these features are not visible throughout in field or in photographs, but based on the markings, we have to identify. So ideally, we should see the anatomy of the birds first, because these things, the more robust body and 6 fingers, will be easier to eliminate Besra in this case. Shikra sparrowhawk in flight. Once again, 5 fingers, 6 fingers, one thing, absence of gala stripe, faint gala stripe. Here, fine marking throughout. Here, streakings and spottings. Okay. Very small beak. Here, a medium-sized beak. Lastly, the markings. Sparrowhawk in flight have more prominent markings on the flight feathers in comparison to Shikra. The barrings are more prominent in the sparrowhawk, especially in the outer primaries. Square-ended tail of sparrowhawk versus a rounded tail of Shikra. Let's see more. So this is how we end the comparison of the most commonly seen 4 species here. Now there is one more which is seen, that is Eurasian goshawk, earlier called as northern goshawk. The new name is Eurasian goshawk. The scientific name has been changed for a lot of accipiters. So accipiters, which are called accipiter earlier, are now changed into many. The Shikra is now Accipiter. Eurasian sparrowhawk is now called as Astur. Just a second, give me. Okay, we'll see the comparison of these two. So Eurasian goshawk is a much robust body in comparison. What we saw in sparrowhawk, it is slimmer body, smaller beak, and thin. Everything is very fine, thin. Here, the beak of a northern goshawk is very large. It's almost like a crested goshawk. So this is one of the most important pointer for a Eurasian goshawk. What we see here is a robust body, large beak, thicker tarsi. The tarsi are thicker in comparison to sparrowhawk. Okay, prominent eye stripe and a prominent eyebrow. It is similar to Eurasian sparrowhawk, and that is how people confuse it. But the difference here is the barring of a northern goshawk is always gray color, unlike a rufous color of sparrowhawks. Okay. The juvenile of Eurasian goshawk has streakings, unlike the sparrowhawk, which is more of barrings and V-shaped markings. We'll see some more comparison here. Eurasian goshawk is once again very bulky, very heavy built bird with very large beak. Okay, when compared to Eurasian sparrowhawk, it is very slim. Both of these are females. Okay, but this is a very huge bird. Okay, important pointers here are, this is a very fine tarsi. Hey. अरे मत करो यार, important काम चल रहा है, बाद में करो. कैसे आप बोल सकते हैं? Sorry, I'm in a friend's place, so someone is there. It has a heavier beak, prominent eye stripe, thicker tarsi. Okay, the tail bands here. The tail bands of northern goshawk, Eurasian goshawk, are different. It has a prominent big bars with a wavy pattern. The bars are not uniform. So it has a wavy structure, typical characteristic of Eurasian goshawk here. Okay, in flight, when compared with Eurasian sparrowhawk, the crested goshawk looks very similar prima facie. So we need to analyze a little more. So these are the finer details coming in. Goshawk has even longer wings in comparison to sparrowhawk. We saw earlier that sparrowhawk has the longest of the four, but the Eurasian goshawk has even longer wings in comparison to the sparrowhawk. One. Second, it has a very large head projection and beak size in comparison to Shikra. So now, very important part. This is called head projection. When we do a straight line when in flight, whatever coming out here, this much, is called a head projection. That when you do a straight line here, the head projection of Eurasian goshawk is the largest with a very large beak. This is the most important pointer to identify a goshawk when comparison to a Eurasian sparrowhawk in flight. Sometimes in bad situation, bad photographs, it is the markings may look very similar. Some large sparrowhawks, they are very similar to Eurasian goshawk. They can be very easily confused, but this is the separating point. Okay, this is in flight once again. It has a much robust head, larger beak, and the underparts are gray, unlike rufous color of Eurasian sparrowhawk. These are the most important pointers here. Even the tail. The sparrowhawk has a square tail, straighter line, while goshawk in flight, when it is spreading, it has more of a wedge tail, a circular looking tail. It is more clearly seen here. It has a wedge shaped tail. Okay, while sparrowhawk has a squarish tail. What we see here once again is a very heavy build of Eurasian goshawk left side versus a sparrowhawk on the right side. Larger head projection, 1. Second, larger beak, 2. So these are two main and a wedge shaped tail. These are the 3 pointers which is pointing to a goshawk in this case. Here, absence of gala stripe is applicable to both. Dark eye mask is applicable to both. So what is not important is no eye mask is important, no gala stripe. It is not important. Okay. The markings are more gray rather than rufous. Now this was already a rare bird. Now there are even more rare birds which are specific to some regions. So we'll just discuss very briefly the other rare birds. If you are a beginner or if you are not really up there, then don't pay too much of attention here. I'll be just giving some information here, but this will rather confuse you rather than help you. So select what you want to understand from this. This is discussed because these are the birds which are seen in a smaller region, only Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So this is a Chinese sparrowhawk. We get Chinese sparrowhawk, we get Japanese sparrowhawk. These two are specifically more commonly seen only in Andaman Nicobars. If you are in mainland India, then these birds usually are not seen in these areas. So these are eliminated only on basis of geographical locations. Okay, so we'll understand this slowly. So Chinese sparrowhawk, it is very similar to Shikra overall. If you see the structure, it is very similar to Shikra. Okay, but what makes it different is larger beak, 1, a much yellow cere. This is called the cere. This is called the cere part. The cere is always very prominent yellow throughout in whether juvenile, adult female or adult male. This is very unique and different in comparison to the others. Now the male, like Shikra, has darker eyes. Shikra has red, but this is sometimes even very dark black looking eye in adult male. But adult females and juveniles, they have very strong looking yellow eye color. Okay, that helps in separating identification of Chinese Sparrowhawk in most of the cases. Only this head part with brilliant yellow eye is often helpful to eliminate the other birds. Okay. Here the tarsi will look, tarsi is also thick, very similar to Shikra. Okay. Important pointers once again here is thicker tarsi, uniform pale gray head, but the important here is the yellow sear, the yellow sear. The yellow eyes of these two are important. In flight. In flight, Chinese Sparrowhawk, especially the adults, are very easy to identify because many birds, not all, okay, but many birds with a very strong black color on the entire primaries. This is the only bird found in India with this black on the outer primaries. Okay, it is not there in all the birds, as I told. Sometimes the birds may not have all the primaries very dark, but it is overall darker. Sometimes Shikra has this darker, but not as much. This is the most dark, the most amount of dark of all birds of India. Next in we have, okay, so other important point here is only 4 outer primaries. The Chinese Sparrowhawk has 4 outer primaries, which we see. Shikra usually has 5. The wing shape here is very unique. The first P10, this is called P10, the first finger is very small in comparison to all the other birds which we get. Now we have Japanese Sparrowhawk. Again, very rare birds, specific to Andaman and Nicobar Islands. They are winter visitors in our areas. Japanese Sparrowhawk is very similar to Besra. The Chinese is very similar in build to Shikra. Japanese is very similar to Besra. Earlier, it was also considered as the same as a subspecies of Besra. So the build is very similar to Besra. It has prominent yellow eye rings, thin tarsi, similar to Besra, but the markings are different. It is a prominent yellow eye ring. The female has barrings, more like a Eurasian Sparrowhawk, while the bill is like a Besra. The juveniles are very similar to Besra, sometimes inseparable. So when you see this kind of bird in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, then on basis of elimination of Besra in that case, because only Besra abdullahi, one subspecies of Besra is seen there, but this is a rather more commonly seen species in Andaman and Nicobar than the Besra. So identification of Besra subspecies of Andaman is little difficult, but this is very likely to be the species if you see such a kind of thing here. Yellow eye ring, small beak, vertical streakings and barrings with a fine long tarsi, square tail end. It will be little difficult, so let us see what is important here. In flight, also similar, the structure is similar to Besra, okay, but the markings are different. Adult male has uniform pattern, more like Shikra, unlike dark markings of a Besra. Yellow eye rings is visible, but darker eyes. 5 outer primaries. In female, it is similar to Eurasian Sparrowhawk, the markings, but the structure is different. Only 5 outer primaries instead of 6 of Eurasian Sparrowhawk is important here. And in juveniles, once again, very difficult to identify in comparison to Besra, but it has yellow eye rings, smaller beak, smaller head projection, and 5 outer primaries. Very similar to Besra. Sometimes inseparable. There is one more super rarity which has been seen in India in last 4-5 years. That is a Levant Sparrowhawk. Okay? So that's why we are discussing a small bit of Levant Sparrowhawk here. Also, those who are very new should not pay too much of attention here because these are very, very, very rare birds. So if you do too much here, then it might be very difficult for you to understand. So what are important pointers of Levant Sparrowhawk here is, let's see, it's very similar to Chinese Sparrowhawk overall. Okay, it is small, slim body, prominent yellow cere like the Chinese Sparrowhawk that we saw. Okay, and thick tarsi similar to Shikra and Chinese Sparrowhawk. Okay, but adult male has dark eyes and rufous barrings. Chinese Sparrowhawk male, but what we saw earlier is this. Okay, there is absence of yellow eye-ring here. There is yellow eye-ring very prominent in Japanese Sparrowhawk with red color eyes. Here, dark eyes, absence of yellow eye-ring here. The deck feathers are plain. These are adult birds. What have been seen in India last 2 or 3 occasions are the juvenile birds. Okay. So we'll see specifically what to see in the juvenile birds. So in flight, Levant Sparrowhawk has a unique flight wing structure which is similar to Chinese Sparrowhawk once again. It has only 4 outer primaries, 1, 2, 3, 4, with the P10 being the smallest and P6 being small. Once again, P10 is the first finger, as we say here. In GK's seminar, he has very nicely explained what is P1, P2, P3. So it is starting from here. All the feathers which are turned outside are called primaries, and from here it is called turning inside is called secondary. So he is called P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. Here the secondaries, it's called S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. It goes like this. So Levant, it has dark fingers similar to Chinese Sparrowhawk. Again, only 4 outer primaries similar to Chinese Sparrowhawk, but the markings are completely different. So that's how it is being identified. Similarly, the adult females have brown barrings. The markings are similar to Eurasian Sparrowhawk, but the wing structure is completely different. Okay. So we'll read it out. It says 4-fingered appearance. 1, 2, 3, 4. The outer primaries are usually dark. The tip of the outer primaries are dark. This is important pointer. Second, a prominent gullar stripe, and the color of eyes is fainter brownish rather than very pale. So for us, we confuse it. We can often confuse it with Shikra when seen here. So people in southern India, it was a nice found of this bird was photographed in India. So that's how it is being discussed here. It is very rare bird and very easy to confuse it with Shikra here. Okay, but how we identify this as a Levant Sparrowhawk? There's a very nice article done by forgot the name, but very nice article published in Indian Birds on how to identify a Levant Sparrowhawk in comparison to others. So those who are interested can have a look at that. So what we see here is only 4 fingers, 4 outer primaries. We see very clearly 4 outer primaries. As Shikra will always have 5 outer primaries, but this P10 of a Shikra is this big. Okay. So sometimes when the primaries are growing, even in that case, it can lead to such confusions. Okay. So this is not the only way to identify. But along with that, a small beak and darker eyes with the markings, which are unique to Levant Sparrowhawk. That's how we separate it from Shikra. The last here to be discussed, it is extremely rare bird, which is called a Nicobar Sparrowhawk. This is so rare to find. I could find only these 3 photographs in internet for this species. There are no other photographs. Okay. So it is very, very difficult to identify this. I'll try to explain how it looks, but it is a very difficult bird to find. It's endemic to Nicobar and Car Nicobar Islands. It is very similar to Shikra. It is extremely similar to Shikra. Okay. But there are only few differences that are seen here. One is adult male has dark eyes and fine but paler barrings on the underpart compared to Shikra. The barrings here are fine and paler in comparison to Shikra. Shikra would have more prominent rufous color barrings. Okay, very, very similar. So sometimes inseparable. Okay. In the juvenile plumage, okay, on the back profile, it is inseparable basically. If you see such kind of Shikra in Nicobar or Car Nicobar, then it is more likely this because Shikra is not distributed in that area. And a juvenile, also very less data on this. So only image, based on this image, we can see that it has more prominent barrings. The tail barrings are more prominent. Okay. And the head and the plumage structure is also different than what we see in Shikra. So that's all in that's the only data available. So I hope all the discussions are clear. Let's have some quiz now. Ankita, can you help me with this, please?
Yes. Is it visible now?
We have lesser people, so we'll stop at around 75.
Correct.
Folks were asking for Harrier ID webinar link. I have posted in the chat.
Okay.
I think we can go ahead. Yeah.
I do not have the.
39% Besra, 36% Chinese Sparrowhawk, 12% Eurasian Sparrowhawk, 10% Shikra, 3% Eurasian Goshawk.
Okay, so there is a mix of everything.
Yeah.
So why is it not a Chinese Sparrowhawk? Because the most commonly asked, the second most was Chinese Sparrowhawk. So Chinese Sparrowhawk adult male would have dark eyes, black eyes. This is a standard, so yellow eyes. So this is a Besra because square tail, thin tarsi, very long middle toe, small beak, dark head, and uniform chestnut underparts. That makes it a Besra. Next. This one.
Yeah, I think we could tell the answer. 64% Eurasian Sparrowhawk and 18% Eurasian Goshawk and less than 7% for Shikra, Crested Goshawk.
Correct. So here, once again, most of you have got it correct. It's a Eurasian Sparrowhawk, and we'll try to eliminate the Eurasian Goshawk, which is the second most preferred. So the structure of the bird, once again, it's very slim. A Goshawk would be much bulkier than this. How we are eliminating Shikra is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 outer primaries. So it is always eliminated. The marking here are very typical. It's a juvenile plumage bird. So if it was a Eurasian Goshawk, Goshawk has a streakings. instead of this V type spots or arrow shape marking. It is a typical of Eurasian sparrowhawk. The eye mask here is not very prominently seen, but is still there. Okay, and the eyebrow is also very clearly seen here. So that's why it is a Eurasian sparrowhawk. Next quiz, please.
Yeah, we have about 70 answers. Very mixed, but still Crested Goshawk 53%, 22% Shikra, 14% Besra, 10% Eurasian
Right.
Goshawk.
So we are getting more and more Crested Goshawk, which is once again correct. How do we eliminate the second most, Shikra and Besra here? We'll see once again. Okay. One, the beak is not very clearly seen from this angle. Okay. But still, the build of the bird is very robust. Second, it has a curved tail, not a very straight tail like a Besra. So Besra we can eliminate based on the markings here. So why not Shikra? Okay, this is the markings here are too prominent. So this is typical of Crested Goshawk, vertical streakings up to throat, mark the barrings or dark spottings on the belly part. This is a typical of Crested Goshawk. Okay. Yellow eye ring also visible. So that's how we eliminate Shikra here.
Yeah, I think good participation. 70% Eurasian Goshawk, 13% Eurasian Sparrowhawk, 10% none of the above, Shikra 6%, even Besra 2%.
Acha. So at least for Besra part, none of the plumages of Besra is like this. So there is something that we need to see again. Okay, so Shikra and Besra are not the case. The most possible confusion would be of Eurasian Sparrowhawk. So this is a Eurasian Goshawk. Why? We'll see one by one. It's a much robust body. Once again, the wings are much longer, but the most important pointer is the head projection here. Okay, this is a very massive head projection, much larger beak and robust body. One. Second, see the tail. The tail is wedge-shaped tail in Eurasian Goshawk, while in Sparrowhawk it is a square tail. So with this kind of markings, it's a much robust bird. So that's a Eurasian Goshawk. Yeah.
In the interest of time, I think we can move ahead. Here we have 43% Shikra, 30% Crested Goshawk, 16%
Okay. Your voice cracked. Okay, so we should move ahead here.
Yes, yes. I think
About 46%, almost 50% have got it correct. It's a Shikra. So in the view of finding rare and difficult birds, we often tend to overlook our common birds. These are classic Shikra juvenile. Streakings, vertical streakings. So only this kind of uniform streakings is found in Shikra. It's found in Eurasian Goshawk, and it's found in Crested Goshawk. But Crested Goshawk has more spotted appearance with more white on this. But what we see here is a robust beak, which is similar to Crested Goshawk, but we see a very dark eye ring also. So dark eye ring is one uniform pointer along with vertical streakings, prominent streaking, which makes it a Shikra.
I think we can move here also. 39% Besra, 26-25% for Eurasian Sparrowhawk and Crested Goshawk.
Okay. So this is a adult female Besra. Actually, this is the same one which I've used in the earlier slides. Same photograph. It is okay. I will eliminate the Sparrowhawk and Crested Goshawk here. Sparrowhawk is easily eliminated because of the underpart markings. So such underpart markings with uniform chestnut color here, it is not found in any plumages of Sparrowhawk. Okay. But Crested Goshawk, the beak looks little larger because this is a female bird. Female bird overall is larger with slightly larger beak, but it is still very small in comparison to a Crested Goshawk. Okay. So this is a adult female Besra. We can see a prominent dark bands on the tail. So this is the most important ID pointer here.
I think 71% of people have voted for Crested Goshawk,
Correct.
10 and 11 for Eurasian Sparrowhawk and Eurasian Goshawk.
Correct. So most of you have again got it correct. It's a Crested Goshawk. How do we see that? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 outer primaries, very rounded wings, bulging secondaries, pinching inside the body, large beak. It makes it a Crested Goshawk. Yeah. This one.
So yeah, interesting mix here, 32% Crested Goshawk, 32% Shikra,
Correct.
25%
Correct.
Besra.
The reason for that is that it is not a very typical photograph with all the ID pointers seen correctly, because often we get some birds or some photograph perched in such angles also. So it is difficult to identify. So in this case, we have 31% Shikra, 31% Crested Goshawk, and 25% Besra. It's a good mix of everything. So we'll eliminate one by one. It is not a Besra because the beak is long. The beak is prominent. One. Second, there is no prominent yellow eye ring here. Number two. Okay. And the tail is more of a rounded tail. And Besra overall is very slim built and a long looking bird. While Shikra and Goshawk, Crested Goshawk, they are robust looking birds. So this could either be a Shikra or be a crested Goshawk. Now, we will be trying to eliminate Shikra here. The kind of prominent barring here, very big barrings. Okay, so vertical streakings up to throat and barring on the belly with more white on the underparts. Okay, this is one of the main ID pointers for a crested Goshawk, and the beak also is very prominent. Okay, difficult to judge this in comparison to Shikra because often Shikra shows similar things. So you need more experience and you need to see more birds and to identify this small things. But the underpart markings, these are the prominent ID pointers here. Okay, so this bird is a crested Goshawk juvenile. This one.
%72% Eurasian Sparrowhawk, 14-15% Eurasian Goshawk.
Correct. So again, most of you are correct here. It is a Eurasian Sparrowhawk. Why? Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fingers, one small head, very small beak, long wings, square tail, and typical markings of a juvenile bird, that is very fine barrings on the underpart and absence of gullah stripe. These are the identification pointers for Eurasian Sparrowhawk. We eliminate Goshawk here on basis of this alone because Goshawk will have this big head. Okay. Next.
Overwhelming 91% with Chinese Sparrowhawk.
Correct. Perfect. Almost 90% is Chinese Sparrowhawk. And that is absolutely correct. Okay. Why? We can say that primarily based on a uniform black primary, outer primary is a dark black primary, outer primary fingers is one very important pointer for Chinese Sparrowhawk. Then only 4 outer primaries seen clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4. The P10 being the shortest of all. It can be otherwise confused looking like a Shikra, but it is not. See, very prominent yellow colors here and 4 outer primaries and very dark fingers. This is a typical Chinese Sparrowhawk. Only 3 more. How about this one?
I think folks have learned it well. There are some people selected Eurasian Sparrowhawk and Eurasian Goshawk, but 79% said none of the above.
Correct. So this was a trick question of all. With all the other understandings of a dark eye mask, prominent supercilium, and all being seen with long wings. Okay. It is not a Eurasian Sparrowhawk, not a Eurasian Goshawk, it's an osprey. Yeah. Because it's not an accipiter at all. So when we start to do extensive analysis of very small pointers, we often forget the basics. So that is what we should not be doing. So most of you are correct. It's none of the above. It's osprey. So how we eliminate Eurasian Goshawk is because everything of this is different. Okay. We have 3 more. Come on. This one should be correct. Most of you. Go ahead. It gets difficult as we go to the end of this. So I hope that people should get it correct.
Interestingly, quite a bit of variation here. 40% Shikra, but good numbers for Crested Goshawk, 24%, Eurasian Sparrowhawk, Eurasian Goshawk. So yeah, Shikra probably won by a small margin otherwise. All other options are selected.
Correct. Okay. So again, once again, very interesting. Shikra is the correct answer, like most of you have said, but we'll still once again very slowly try to eliminate the other two. That is Eurasian Sparrowhawk and Crested Goshawk and Eurasian Goshawk, all the three. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outer primaries. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth is even missing here. So only 5 outer primaries. That eliminates primarily, it eliminates all the other three. But that is not the only thing we have to see. Then you see a prominent gala stripe here. That prominent gala stripe should very easily eliminate Eurasian Sparrowhawk and Eurasian Goshawk because there is no gala stripe in these two. Now we are left with only Crested Goshawk. Crested Goshawk has a completely different wing shape, different underpart markings, much more robust beak, 6 outer primaries and bulging secondaries pinching inside the body. So that is how a Crested Goshawk is. So we should analyze everything prior to giving an ID. We have 2 more. So go ahead now.
Not much of participation, 51% Besra, but there are people selecting Goshawk and Shikra, none of the balls.
Okay.
18% none of the above.
Correct. Okay. So let's stop the poll here. This needs the maximum discussion because these are the birds which are difficult to identify. Okay. So these are difficult birds. They are kept at the end once again for clarification. Most of the people have said Besra here. Okay. Structurally, most of you got it correct. Structurally, that the structure looks like Besra here. But what is not? Okay. What is not that is of Besra here? 1, see the number of outer primaries here. 1, 2, 3, 4 only. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 only. Fifth could be considered, but the P10 is the smallest one. Second, a juvenile Besra will have even more prominent markings here. Okay, and it would certainly show a square tail, which is absent here. Okay? So this is a 11 Sparrowhawk juvenile. Actually, the same image was there in the earlier slide also. So this was photographed in India and very difficult to identify, especially separating it from Shikra or even Besra in that case is very difficult. So that's why it is very important to record everything, to photograph everything and to upload these things on eBird where someone else who is doing work on some specific species can have access to these things. Okay. So this is a 11 Sparrowhawk. You see 4 outer primaries which are prominent. Okay, yellow seer which is very prominent here. Let's have one last.
Very interestingly, 30, 30, 30 division between Basra, Shikra, and Japanese Sparrowhawk.
Correct, correct. That is what is expected because these are confusing birds. So even if you get it wrong, it is okay. You need to focus on what is important, what are important ID pointers, and how do you justify what do you think it is. It is more important here. Okay, so we are getting increasing number of Besras here and followed by Shikra. So yes, it is an adult Besra. Once again, how do you eliminate Shikra here? I repeat the same things again. Very small beak, yellow eye ring, very fine tarsi, very long middle toe, and a square tail. These are the pointers that makes it Besra and separates it from Shikra.
Maybe you need to tell the Japanese Sparrowhawk also. 33% people selected that.
Oh, niche. Acha. So Japanese Sparrowhawk, we have seen it earlier also. So Japanese Sparrowhawk is very similar looking bird to Besra. But adult Japanese Sparrowhawk would have red color eyes. This is a proper adult bird. So one red color eye makes it different. So that is why the location where the photograph is taken is also very important. Okay? So based on the location, we can eliminate the other things because this particular photograph is from Jammu and Kashmir. Okay? So based on the location, primarily, we can eliminate Japanese Sparrowhawk unless and until it is showing very typical features of a Japanese Sparrowhawk. But very closest next after Besra is Japanese Sparrow because they are very similar looking birds. Okay, it would have a proper red color eyes. So now we go ahead where we started. Okay, we started with which of these are accipiters. Now let's go a little ahead based on our understanding of the birds which you have seen. You have identified correctly as what 1, 3, 5 are accipiters. So let us see what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are these? Can you just put the name of what it is? Ankita, can we have the poll? We need the name. What do you think it is? Do we have the poll?
Nikita, they have to type in the chat or? Nikita, you're breaking up.
Okay, type it in the chat. Let's see. So first let us discuss 1, 3, 5 only. So 1, 3, 5 were earlier told are accipiters, which is correct. So now what is 1 and why? Ankita, you are breaking. We are not able to understand what you're telling.
It's okay, Ankita. We are posting on the chat.
It's okay. Yeah. Ankita, we are not getting what you're telling. It's okay. Okay, so do we have number 1 in the chat? What is number 1? Praveen, I do not have access to this.
Lot of Eurasian Sparrowhawks, Shikras. I think that's mostly one.
Okay.
One is mostly
Okay.
Shikra. Eurasian.
So we'll discuss 1, 3, 5 first. So only one, most of people are telling Shikra and Sparrowhawk. So that is the most common doubt that people have. So this is correct. Even with this small image, we can say that this is a Eurasian Sparrowhawk. Why? Because even these things are not seen. But based on the structure, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 outer primaries. The first one is being inside here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Second, square tail. Third, longer wings in comparison to Shikra. Okay, and very small head projection here and very small beak. So this is a typical flight structure of a Eurasian Sparrowhawk. This is what we see most commonly. Now we see to number 3, which is also an accipiter.
Yeah, I think everybody is mentioning Crested Goshawk.
Okay, number 3 is Crested Goshawk. Everyone? Correct. So most of you are correct. It is a Crested Goshawk. Okay. Why? Because much rounder wings, pinching inside, 6 outer primaries, and this is a typical wing structure of a Crested Goshawk. After seeing all this in flight, we are able to understand more about it. 5th number.
5th did not have many suggestions. Eastern Goshawk and Besra, 2 people are suggested.
Okay.
That's all.
Anyone else interested in telling this?
Yeah, it's Besra and Eurasian Goshawk. These are the ones.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so this is a Eurasian goshawk, as many of you have told correctly. It has much longer wings. Okay, how we eliminate Besra from here is Besra would have very shorter wings in comparison to this. This is a very long wings of any. This has the longest wings of any Accipiter. Okay, and overall robust build, robust body, wedge tape shell, circular C-shaped tail. So that's why it is a Eurasian goshawk, and much larger head projection makes it eliminates a Sparrowhawk. So these are the main accipiters. We'll try to guess what 2, 4, 6 are. So any guesses on the 2?
Couple of guesses. OHB.
Correct. Both the guesses are correct. With the wing structure given here, it is a oriental. Very difficult to identify this. Okay. So there is no problem whatsoever. Even the best of the experts, even I may not be able to identify, or even the best of the expert may not be able to identify with these things. Okay. So this is a OHB. How about this 4 number?
People have either mentioned Falcon or they have mentioned Shaheen.
Correct. So Falcon is what I was looking for. Falcon is the correct answer. It is impossible to say which falcon it is from the given image. Okay. Maximum we can go closer from the wing shape is a peregrine falcon. Yes, this particular image is a shine falcon. Okay. But the wing shape is a typical falcon. Okay. 6 number.
We had quite a number of responses of 6 with Goshawk, and couple of people did mention Harrier, but there were other responses also. Sparrowhawk. Yeah, quite a varied number of responses for 6, but few people have.
So this is very tricky. So it gets very tricky when we are seeing small speck in the sky far away. So it is very easy to misidentify these things. Okay, here this particular is a harrier. It's a pallid harrier, or best from this image, no one can say it's a pallid harrier. I know it because I've taken it from somewhere. Because I've okay, so this is a pallid harrier. The best we can see from this image is it's a either Montague's or pallid harrier. We cannot identify perfectly from this particular image which harrier it is. But the wing shape here, it is a typical harrier wing shape. When you compare it with a goshawk here, which is a very long wings, even with that compared to harrier very slimmer and longer wings. Okay. Yep. So that's all. Important point here is ID of all birds is not important. Sometimes some birds can be kept as unidentified if there is a brief sighting or insufficient document. So to confirm the identification. So sometimes in given such conditions where it is not ideal, it cannot be identified. It can be left as unidentified. That's all.
Okay. Thanks, Nirav. We will try to take a few questions quickly. We've been on the call for some time. I will try to summarize some of the questions so that it's easier for you to understand. You have covered mostly the visual identification feature. There are questions whether seasonality has got some kind of information which we can use, habitat, whether it has got some information which we can use to eliminate, and vocalization. So would you like to comment on these 3 aspects of how useful is these 3, habitat,
Correct.
seasonality, and vocalization for Accipiter identification?
Okay, so seasonality is really very important because we have to understand which of these birds are migratory and which of these are resident birds for us. So we start with Shikra. Shikra is resident bird for us, so we see it throughout the season. Sparrowhawk and Goshawk, these the Eurasian Goshawk, both of these are migratory birds. So earliest we see Sparrowhawks coming are in the month of late September, and we can see them till almost April, mid-April. But most of the birds we get to see in good numbers starting from October end onwards. So they are winter migrants for us. So if you see anything that is in the month of April or May, then it is less likely to be these 2. Second, Crested Goshawk and Besra. These 2 are forest dwellers. Besra is very highly specific forest bird. So to see Besra in an open habitat is very, very unlikely. Although there are very, very few records, but still very unlikely to find a Besra in a open habitat. Crested Goshawk has a limited range. So for that, it is good if you can do some homework on the distribution yourself, because when you need to learn the birds, you can have look at the eBird distribution map. It is very, very accurately depicting the actual status of the distribution of these things. So even Crested Goshawk is a forest bird. Given I told you that the other two, Japanese and Chinese Sparrowhawk, are limited to Andaman Islands, very few sightings inland. Levant is a very rare vagrant. Then what else do we have? Eurasian Goshawk. It's a migrant bird, but Eurasian Goshawk is seen primarily very in good numbers and very frequent sightings only from Jammu Kashmir, with some regions, hilly regions of Northeast and Arunachal. These are the areas where we get the largest sightings. There are inland sightings of Eurasian Goshawk also, but the numbers are very less. So we need to be more vigilant in identification of these birds, especially given the location. Vocalization, yes, vocalization, it is important in the breeding birds when we see them here. So the call of Besra is probably the best way to find a bird, because to find a bird like Besra in a forest is difficult. So vocalization helps in finding the birds, and they have a single note call. These calls are available on a lot of platforms, including Zenocanto. Crested Goshawk has very unique call, unlike the most other Accipiters. Very nice and interesting to listen to it. So those who are keen can go to such maybe Zenocanto or something and listen to the call. It's very nice whistle type of call. Sparrowhawks and Eurasian Goshawk usually do not call when they are here as a winter migrant. The other calls I'm not really very well versed with. So these were two questions. What was the third one?
I think you covered seasonality,
Correct.
habitat, and vocalization.
Habitat. Correct. Anything else?
Yeah. So the other one is related to how much these features are reliable from single images. So question is the fluffy vent always visible in crested goshawk, or won't the square or rounded tail depend on the flight of the bird? Would we need multiple images? So these are the pitfalls of using one image, and what is your opinion on this?
Correct. So it is when we have more and more photographs, the more angles we have, we get a larger we get more visibility on what the bird could be. So sometimes only from one photograph, it is very difficult to confirm identification. So whenever, if you are trying to document something, or if you want to get the bird identified later on, try to take maximum photographs from the maximum angles possible. In at least accipiters, it is difficult, but in birds like butios, it is extremely difficult to separate maybe Himalayan buzzard from a steppe buzzard, or maybe a long-legged buzzard, if there are only one or two photographs. So the larger number and large of photographs and more what you call flight photographs, maybe perch photographs from front, from back, and the more angles of photos if available, then it is better to get it ID'd correctly.
Okay. The specific question related to Sparrowhawk, but it's applicable for all other cases. Are the juvenile males identifiable from juvenile females?
Usually not, to most people, because if it is in flight, then we are not able to judge the actual size of it. Okay, only if it is perched. And if you have seen a lot of sparrowhawks yourself, and if you are able to determine the compactness of it, in that case, maybe yes. The photograph that I showed you, which was from Jalana, it had a male and a female together. So if that much of size difference is there, then you can most certainly say that this is a male and this is a female. But if you have them side by side, it's the best to tell apart. In other cases, if it's a very compact bird or a very large bird, in that case, we can say with certain level of surety, but otherwise it is not possible.
Okay, thanks. There's another question. Are there any hybrid accipiters known, either from India or somewhere else?
Hybrid accipiters. I am not aware of
I haven't
any.
also come across. Yeah,
Yeah,
no
I have not.
observations.
Yeah, I have not seen any documentation of that.
Okay. Okay, very specific question. Primaries of Eurasian goshawk and Eurasian sparrowhawk. I think which you did not tell any difference. Is there any?
No, the primaries are very similar. The wing structure is slightly different, where the arms of Eurasian goshawk are longer. The wing is little longer than the sparrowhawk. But that is seen if you have very good photographs, or if you have seen too many Eurasian sparrowhawks to compare these two, because the difference is very little. It's not a very significant difference that everyone can make out very easily. So the head projection is the best way to tell apart in flight.
A couple of people have asked how to join the Raptors of India WhatsApp group. So if you can tell them
Sure,
how.
there is a link. There is a link which I have given for joining. So where do you think I should share it
If you
for
can put it on
everyone
the
to
chat,
understand?
if you can put it on the chat, people will be
I
able to
don't know
get
how
it.
to put it. I don't know how to put it. I
Okay.
can, all I can do is I can type my mobile number here. So those who are interested can send me a message request, and I'll share the link personally.
That should be fine. That should be fine. Yeah. Okay, I think that we have covered all the questions here. There are very specific questions related to ID, which I think you have covered already. People can actually watch it in the YouTube channel and redo it. So I think those questions I'm skipping for now. But thanks a lot, Nirav, for this very enlightening session of accipiters. So many species, so many plumages. We probably covered some 20, 25 plumages in this 2 hours webinar. I'm sure that people who joined, all of them benefited from it. We will put this particular video on the BirdCon India YouTube channel in a few days. Do remember, this is a series, and the next in series is Vultures sometime in December. Do watch out for the notification from BirdCon India to join that particular thing also. On behalf of all of us here, we thank Nirav for taking time and explaining all these things very nicely to us. Thank you, Nirav.
Thank you, everyone. Still, if there's any question for anyone, you can either WhatsApp me or you can send email to me. I'll be happy to help you.
Thanks a lot. And thank you, Ankita. You can close the webinar.